So for the first 30 years of my life, I really tried to fit the mold, to meet the norm. On the outside, it all looked fantastic. I was doing super well, getting high grades, working in a corporate. But on the inside, it wasn't so great. In school, I really tried to fit the social norm of my year class. But I never really fitted in, and that made me feel very insecure. In university, my interest went way beyond what was actually offered in the formal curriculum, which made me think that I wasn't such a good engineer. And in working life, I didn't fit the ideal profile, the rounded, nice profile of the ideal manager. So I had to constantly do less of what I was too good at, and needed to work on my weaknesses, or my so-called development points. And I tried to reach higher, because higher is always better, right? But only recently, I figured out that actually that these strengths, which were fitting the mold, were not my strength. And actually that my natural strength, that were part of me, were not really in line with it. And only the last 10 years, I started to create an environment where I could thrive much more in, which was much more in line with my own natural talents. And I needed to rediscover a lot of these talents, which were apparently part of me all my life, and which are useful in life. But I didn't even know them myself. So I had to rediscover, redevelop them. And about 6 years ago, my co-founders and I created a completely new company in a completely new technology called augmented reality. And finally, I was outside of any box. And finally, I was thriving. I started to realize more and more that we're doing something really strange here in society. That we really stick to this norm. And I've experienced in these many roles in life, and also being a mother of 3 young children now, that there is such a huge array of different talents that people can have naturally. I even dare to argue that it is almost infinite. And on the other side, there's an almost infinite diversity in roles that people can play in life. But what do we do nowadays? We put this norm in between it, with sometimes dramatic effects on people, on their feeling of insecurity, because they do not fit these norms, and also the way they deal with this. We've had several stories already about it today. This really bothered me, which is why I decided to devote my life to education 3 years ago. Also because we are doing not only this, but we are facing so many challenges in our society. And like Einstein already said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that created it. So if you want to change society, you have to start at the source, which is in the way we prepare people for life, which is in education. So 3 years ago, I founded a non-profit organization called Operation Education. And we aim to transform education on a systems level. But who is the system? The system is us. Each and every single one of us is part of the system. Because each and every single one of us is at some moment in time in your life a decision maker when it comes to education. As a student, as a parent, or maybe even closely involved, being an educator, being a school leader, or a politician who decides where the money goes. But what do we base our decisions on? We are very much driven by our habits. And it's so interesting that it's these habits that I would like to discuss. Because we need to change a lot of these habits. And changes means transformations, and transformations are painful. At least that's what I've experienced. And something interesting happens when it comes to education, is that education is what shaped us. Our own education is what shaped us. So if you challenge or question your education, you also challenge or question what you became to be. And that is as I've experienced for many people, a really difficult thing to do, which is probably also why there's so much resistance to education innovation, to change in education. But I've experienced time and again these processes are also beautiful. And we should maybe just accept it and help people to go through this process, even though it's sometimes extremely frustrating. And I also have to say this out loud to myself, because it is frustrating when people are so resistant to change in education and when there's so much disinterest. But let's help people with it. Because we will need to change. We have so much ahead of us. It's not only about the problems we are facing today. I don't even find it so interesting to discuss. What I find interesting, what we have ahead of us. What you see here is Moore's law. And Moore's law describes that the computing power doubles every 1.5 to 2 years to a constant price level. This law was formulated by Gordon Moore in 1965 and appeared to already be valid in 1900. And it is still valid today. And it is even the roadmap for chip manufacturers such as ASML. What this means that in the coming decades, the computing power will start to exceed the total computing power of all human brains together. We have no idea what this will really mean. But there are some futurists who have predictions on this. Let me share with you one of them. Ray Kurzweil is a very renowned inventor, computer scientist, futurist, and author of a book called The Singularity is Near. And he recently made some very interesting predictions on what we will face somewhere in the 2030s already. Let me share them with you. He predicts that we'll be able to do direct brain-to-brain communication, meaning that you will not even need language anymore, but directly from brain to brain we'll be able to communicate with each other. We'll even be able to download expertise directly onto our brains. Like in the movie The Matrix, we've all seen it. It's very likely that it will be possible to do this. Scalable intelligence. Plug some extra computing power, plug some extra memory into your brains. Living in a virtual world, beyond having glasses, just living in it, and having augmented and virtual realities. And we will be having some kind of higher order existence, and I like that. Even I, as a techie girl, find it very hard to get my head around this, because this is just simply... It's hard to imagine. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be, awesome. But then still, how to prepare for such a future? And a lot of people ask us, or ask me, or ask themselves, will there still be roles for humans if these computers become so smart, if we can just download everything? I think that's precisely those capacities that make us unique as humans, which cannot be replaced by robots, computers, or artificial intelligence, will become the most important ones again. And I'm talking about characteristics such as imagination, critical thinking, having an identity, creating a culture, to able to cooperate with each other, having an intuition. It's all these characteristics, but some people call them the 21st century skills. Yeah, right. You could also argue that they are the 4th century before Christ skills. Because it's exactly these skills which make us unique as humans. And I truly believe that these will become the most important skills going forward. Because yes, a lot of paid jobs will probably be replaced by computers, because that's very logical from an economic and efficiency perspective. But there will still be so many roles in life for us as humans. But what does this mean for education? A lot of people directly ask the what question. What does this mean for me as a teacher? What type of lessons do we need to give? What do I need to do as a school leader? What do I need to spend my money on? But before we can answer these what questions, we need to go back a little bit and answer some other questions first. Let me show that to you with a little model we created. We are very much driven by our habits when it comes to education. And we find it very normal that we have year classes, that we give grades, that children need to sit still, that school starts at 8:30 and ends at 3, that we have long summer holidays, etc. But we don't really know why we do it this way anymore. And that is interesting. Did we ever ask ourselves these questions? Why? We should, because some reasons are not so very logical anymore. And the fact that we have 6-week or even longer summer holidays dates back to the time that we needed to help our parents when harvesting. And yeah, it's really nice to have a long summer holiday, but it is proven to be bad for the learning, and it widens the gap between the have and the have-not in education. So why are we still doing it? Because we're so used to it. So let us systematically discuss and ask, why are we doing it this way? We call this phase inquisitive awareness. Become more aware of what we're doing. And it's also a matter of letting go of what we are so used to. So it's more a mental process. Then the second step, we call it what for. What if we could completely let go of the system that we are so used to? And what if we could just start from scratch, redesign the system from scratch, start to dream again? How would it look like? And then the most important question is, what is it for? Only after we've answered that question, it is time to go back to the what question. What do we need to do? What are the lesson plans that work? What kind of schools work, etc.? And we call that purposefully composed. And only then we can talk about the how. How can we sustainably adopt all the things that work? There's a demand side and a supply side on this. Everybody who wants to bring movement into education should work on these two sides, on creating massive demand for a more contemporary setup of education, on the other hand, enable the supply. And in the middle, the beating heart, are communities of people, of dreamers, of doers, of people who just feel the same and just organizing it all and just setting it up. They are found, you can find them anywhere, in every school, in every organization, everywhere in society. They are there. But we need to connect them and empower them, because mostly those people feel, we've encountered so many of them, they feel alone calling in the desert. They think they're only crazy fools. Let's bring these together. And if you feel the same, if you recognize yourself in this, find those like-minded people and just do it and put things into motion. But in between these two sides, there's one most important question. And interestingly enough, it's a question we do not ask ourselves enough. It's the question, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of education? If children born today have a life expectancy of probably even over 100 years, what is important to learn? Do you have an answer yourself? Or ask around, do other people have an answer? Most of us don't have an answer ready at hand, but we do take decisions when it comes to education. It's funny, isn't it? So I'm calling upon everybody to formulate your own answers and act on them. And let's start dreaming. We should be dreaming again. We should be reimagining. There's so much to dream of. And if you ask me, of course, I have answers also myself. I've been thinking about this very long and hard for many nights and many days, for 3 years. And I have some answers. They are not the answers, obviously, because there are no right answers. Simply, just like there's no ideal political system or political party, there are no ideal answers. But maybe you can use my answers to inspire your own ones, or to discuss them, or to trash them. I'm fine with it, but at least this is what I think. I see 4 main purposes of education. The first one is to unleash your own and unique infinite potential and learn how to make that meaningful and valuable for society. There's an example. There are lots of children who are really good at drawing at school. But drawing is not typically a characteristic that we develop and that we acknowledge in school and that we assess. However, in real life, people who are able to visualize are very useful, very valuable, very renowned, because we need people who can put things into images in today's very imaginary world, because often an image can express more than 1,000 words. But if you are, for example, even if you are a dyslexic kid somewhere in Rotterdam-Zuid, but you're really, really good at doing hip-hop teaching for other street kids in Rotterdam-Zuid and give them back their dignity. You are fantastic. I truly believe that there's a bit of brilliance in everybody, no matter your level. So what if we could just find that brilliance, that dignity in everybody, and learn how you can be of value with that, how you matter in life. Number 2, learn how to shape the future. This goes beyond being prepared for the future, because it's really hard to be prepared for the future if it's continuously changing. But one of the things I think we should be learning is how to create an idea, how to develop that idea into a plan, to get people to like your plan, create a prototype for it, bring it to the market, etc. Or even perhaps learning how to program those computers and these robots. So being in charge of creating your own future, and with it, the future. Number 3, to understand and master the conditions for peace and sustainable development. We are all living on the same planet. We are all dealing with each other's problems. We are fighting each other's wars. We are breathing the same air, and we are mining all the same natural resources. We can try to put borders around our countries, but in the end, we all have to deal with each other. So why don't we better, already from the start, be prepared for it and master these things, such as empathy and respect for each other and intercultural awareness, just to name a few. Then the 4th one, learn how to live a happy and healthy life. There's so many things we already know about healthy lifestyles and healthy development. And also there's a lot we know already, also from neuroscience, but things we have to do well in the first few years, so important years of life, which will have a lifelong positive effect on humans. Why don't we just apply them to what we call education today? Then a lot of people ask me, okay, yeah, I hear that, and it's hard to be against it. So, okay, cool. If you cannot be against it, maybe you can be in favor of it. Maybe what we just described could be something that unites us all as people wanting to make education better. Maybe these things, these higher goals, could be something that can be used as a quality criteria. And of course, they need to be made much more specific when it comes to a school, and we must substantiate them. But maybe this can be something. Let's discuss. Then the question of knowledge. A lot of people say, yeah, okay, but I don't hear the word knowledge in your story. So, okay, what about it? What's the purpose of knowledge, actually? What is the purpose of knowledge? What is the purpose of having knowledge and assessing knowledge? I find it hard to really find an answer. This is my answer to it. I really like graphs, and so things in 4. Here on the vertical axis, I put on top the self, and on the bottom your surroundings, your context, the world around you, people, planet, technology, biology, geography, history, etc. And on the horizontal axis, I put on one side gaining insight, and on the other side influence, positive influence, obviously. I think education should encompass all of this. I think it's really important to gain insight into who you are as a person, in what makes you unique, your unique skills, your what you love doing, what you're good at, who you actually are, what drives you, but also to be able to not say this is who I am, a static mindset, not to say how can I influence myself, how can I grow as a human being. And on the other side, on the surroundings, on where normal, traditional knowledge lies, I think that that the purpose, I think, should be to gain insight into something. Have the feeling of, now I understand it. That is cool. I think that should be, or could be, a purpose on its own. To really be wondered, to respect something, to accept that it is this way. And on the other side, to be able to make things better, to improve things, to impact the world, to push the boundaries of whatever we know right now. And knowledge lies underneath it. So that is what I think is the purpose of education, the purpose of knowledge. And I strongly ask you all to define, to formulate an answer of your own and to act on it. Because I strongly believe that each and every single one of us is capable of bringing movement into the education system. If we all do this. And be prepared for transformations that are painful. This is the way it is. But also I've experienced time and again that these transformations, once you are through it, it is just only beautiful. Thank you very much.